Another Wednesday in the Woody in the books for Ohio State as the Buckeyes prepare for Western Kentucky. I'm Spencer Holbrook alongside Tim May, the 40-year vet, and Andy Backstrom. Fellas, let's get into it. A lot to learn from these Buckeyes on a Wednesday in the Woody with Western on deck. A lot of W's here, Tim. But the Buckeyes are going to be searching for just one W this week. Not looking forward to that Notre Dame matchup. They're just going to try to take on Western Kentucky.
Yeah, the best thing about having two W's is a chance to get three. Is that where you were going with that?
Yeah, anything you want to say?
That little line? Yeah, I mean, what stood out to me today, Justin Fry thinks they have the right people in place on this offensive line. They're still working. They got guys working, trying to get a little more heavily into that two deep, maybe getting some playing time. But, Ryan Day, the first 2 weeks has not been overly satisfied. Pleased is a hard word. Satisfied with the offensive line play on a consistency basis. I asked Justin Fry if there was a watchword this week. Would it be aggressive? Would it be consistency? And he said violent. Play violent. Boy, that is exactly the same word you heard come out of Ryan Day's mouth after the second half comeback win over Utah. In the Rose Bowl a couple of years ago. The team just came out and just played slobber knocker and got after Utah, and by will won that game. It also helped they had a couple of wide receivers making their debuts and Jackson Smith and Jigba going crazy. But the bottom line was they played violent, and that's what a lot of people, like I had Keith Byers on the Tim May show this week, and that's one of the things he talked about. He wants to see these two lines line up and dominate, get after people, be aggressive, be violent. And so we'll see if that watchword carries water this week.
I think it's got to be, for me, the pass defense is going to be super important this week. This is the first real test for this Ohio State secondary, and they're facing a Western Kentucky team that throws the ball 44 times a game. And, we've talked a lot about the clock rule. Teams have been running on third down against Ohio State, whether it was a triple option with Indiana or last week at Youngstown State, kind of just trying to stop the bleeding and making it a little bit more respectable of a game. Well, this week, Western Kentucky's going to throw it, and they're going to throw it a lot. And this is going to be a test for Jordan Hancock, Davison Igbinosun, Denzel Burke, and this entire secondary. We talked to Jordan Hancock today. He's probably going to be in that slot position a lot on Saturday. We've already seen him a good bit of that this season. And he says he really enjoys it. He likes to hit people. He likes to have that position where he has that flexibility of being a cover guy, but also being a run defender. So that whole secondary is going to kind of be on spotlight.
Yeah,
I guess this weekend.
Yeah, it's interesting, Andy, that whereas Ohio State is going to try to be violent, Western Kentucky wants to spread you out and be as finesse as possible. There's no more finesse offense, and that's not a knock. That's not finesse as a pejorative. That's finesse as just a different style. It's just a different style, and it's not lost on me that as Ohio State wants to get more violent, they have a finesse team coming in here that just wants to throw the ball all around. So it's almost a juxtaposition, like a tale of two teams here, where Ohio State, I do believe, with Western Kentucky team that gave up 374, 400 really if you take away the sack yards, 400 yards to South Florida on the ground. At the same time, Western Kentucky wants to throw for over 400 yards against Ohio State. And so it won't surprise me if you see two completely different philosophies, not just with air raid versus spread, but really Ryan Day wanting to run the ball and almost keep the ball away from Western Kentucky, while Western Kentucky wants to throw it all around and just do what they do. It's interesting.
It wouldn't be stunning to see Western Kentucky throw almost every down. I remember when SMU came in here, and what was that, 1977, 70?
I remember that, yeah.
They threw the ball almost every down. I'm saying, you never know what a team's going to come in here and try to do. But I can't see them coming in here and trying to play left-handed just to run clock. You know what I mean? And because they do what they do well, and they have a kind of a ball control passing offense is what they're all about. I mean, they spread the field. They'll throw quick screens to the flat 1 minute and deep the next, and then crossing routes. They try to get the ball. Austin Reed tries to get the ball out of his hand as quickly as possible on a lot of things, which makes chasing him difficult, like we talked about the other day. You got to get pressure up the middle on this guy on a consistent basis just to make him feel somewhat uncomfortable. So there are all these challenges for this defense, but the main thing is they're going to do what they do best, which is throw the ball. And like I've been telling you guys for months, and y'all agree with me, it's not like I'm lecturing you. This is the first test for this defense that has gotten his act together of not letting people occasionally just run free, like happened last year near the end of at the end of the year. So I think it's an interesting week before the big trip to Notre Dame.
Yeah, the Buckeyes have been really good at allowing little to no yards after catch. Malachi Corley led the country in yards after catch last year. And Tim Walton, wow, fly, nice, actually was asked about that. He said, okay, are you guys ready to tackle? Because this team has been good at tackling so far this year on the perimeter, at cornerback. If they would have tackled better, I think against Michigan last year, they could have won that game on the perimeter, especially at the cornerback position.
Yeah.
With all that being said, though, they have to do it this week. I don't care if you can do it against Indiana and Youngstown State. You better tackle from the cornerback spot this weekend or you're going to be in trouble.
Well, Davis Nganosin's the king of that right now. He's got 9 total tackles.
That's true.
8 of them are solos. He's out there on a corner, on an island sometimes, making tackles. I think he's only missed 1, and that one he was over pursuing the ball carrier, but it was good aggressiveness by him in general, which is what they want at this stage. So he's been great in that regard, but all these corners, as you mentioned, will need to make more tackles, including Jordan Hancock in that slot position. Interesting that this is the word that Tim used to describe this week. That's also the word that Tommy Eichenberg, who is a man of few words, described this game this week, just from a linebacker standpoint in terms of defending this kind of offense. Everyone's got to be on their A game in terms of preventing yards after the catch because they are going to throw it. And the interesting thing about Austin Reed is he gets the ball out super quickly and he can run it if he wants to too. He had 8 touchdowns on the ground last year. So this isn't someone who's just going to be taking his time back there, throwing the ball. Yes, there's going to be more pass rushing opportunities for these defensive ends and the interior, but it's going to be kind of hard to get this guy down.
Yeah, it's their shot, though, and he knows this, and everybody knows this. The Buckeyes know their shot is throwing the ball, continuing throwing the ball, and not hoping, but planning to get a big one, in some form or fashion, or work it down the field and do what you got to do. That's definitely what's happening. It's funny because I asked Tommy Eichenberg about that. That's the interesting thing about defense compared to offense. When you're on defense, every week, especially in college football, not the NFL, but in college football, it's like you're studying a new, you're studying a football book, but it's a totally different tome, T-O-M-E, because you're pulling it down off a shelf. Okay, air raid, spread offense. Last week, whatever Youngstown State calls that offense they've got, it's a good mix. Before that, it was the triple option. Now all of a sudden, you're getting ready for another totally different test. And it's sometimes that's tough to do. Sometimes it's tough to prepare for all of the contingencies in a situation like this. It's good probably that this is the 3rd game of the year and not the maybe 9th game of the year. Coming in out of left field. But that's what Tommy Eichenberg was alluding to. It's whether it's going to be fun or not remains to be seen.
I have a hard time thinking Tommy watches the film and loves that philosophy of offense.
What?
Air it out, not running the ball.
He's going to be like this and then like this.
Well, I just think that
or he's going to be blitzing like they did a lot of last week with him and Steel Chambers.
I just think with his personality, the way he plays the game, you show him the air raid and he's like, this isn't football. What is this? What are we doing here? But I could be wrong. If you'd like to see the air raid in action against Ohio.
He could trick himself and say, these are just long handoffs. Now go tackle somebody.
Tim, I think the last time the air raid came to Ohio Stadium, and I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It was back in 1978 when SMU came in?
No, I think it was in 2003 or 4 when Texas Tech was here.
Yeah.
2002 when Texas Tech was here, the national title season.
2002, yeah.
I think they threw it many, many times, and the Buckeyes did a pretty good job that day. This defense will try to do it. If you'd like to see the air raid in action in the Horseshoe for the first time since 2002, allegedly, go to gametime.com or the Gametime, or gametime.co or the Gametime app. It is the place to go for your tickets. $20 off when you use the promo code Buckeyes on your first purchase. Of course, terms apply, but cheap seats again this week. After last week, there were some cheap ones, but still 102,000 people there, Tim, Andy. We were among them, and it was a packed house. I was impressed.
Absolutely.
I called out Buckeye Nation last week. They answered the bell because they all went to game time.
You called out Buckeye Nation in 20 minutes before the game started.
Yeah.
Go ahead. And then all of a sudden, everybody filled up.
Yeah, it was, and
Noon,
you know
baby.
why it filled up? Because everyone went to gametime.co or used the Game Time app and got their tickets. Used the promo code Buckeyes, and they all got $20 off their first purchase of the tickets. If you would like to come to Ohio State, Western Kentucky, Go to gametime.co or use the GameTime app. Use the promo code Buckeyes for $20 off your first purchase. But wait, there's more. If you find a ticket on the GameTime app or at gametime.co, you find a ticket in your section or that row on another ticketing website that is cheaper, gametime.co and the GameTime app will refund you 110% the difference. Not only will you get $20 off your first purchase, then you can make some more money on top of that. Just incredible, honestly.
It's too bad my phone's sitting over there, because I could show you examples on the GameTime app. There you can get in for fairly cheap this week, and the Penn State game is another matter. But yeah, the GameTime app is the place to go.
And they make it a little cheaper to get into the Penn State game if you want. Or hey, if you want to go down to Nationwide Arena next week and watch Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band play whatever they call music, go ahead.
Oh, man.
Because you can get $20 off your first purchase when you use the promo code Buckeyes.
What's the guy supposed to do? Just retire? I mean,
yes, that's exactly what he's supposed to do,
I
Tim.
think he's still getting it done.
Who's not retiring are
Game Time. Maybe I'll use the GameTime app to get me a good ticket for that.
Yeah, I mean, you used it. You can't get the $20 off because you already did that when you went to see the little baby.
Yeah.
So, fellas, the Buckeyes are in an interesting spot. The Buckeyes are in an interesting spot because next week they go on the road to South Bend. Nobody, I think, believes that this game is as big as the game at South Bend. They obviously have to be locked in on it, and they are. I will give them credit. Ohio State is not looking ahead, on the outside, at least. They're making it look like they're not looking ahead. But it's really hard this week to stay focused, and that's the challenge ahead for the rest of this week when you know that Notre Dame is looming, Andy.
Yeah, I don't think Kyle McCord is going to have any trouble, though, because I was asking Emeka Ibuka, when did you realize just how relaxed and calm Kyle is? And he said it was his first start against Akron in 2021 because he was getting ready to play, and he wasn't even starting that game. He was anxious for that. And he was like, Kyle was the one who was starting in place of C.J. Stroud at that point and was totally even-keeled, and he was almost taken aback how relaxed he was. Well, now flash forward 2 years later, he's QB1 full-time now as a full-time starter, and I have really no concern that this is going to be a game that he overlooks. I feel like he's always kind of dialed in and locked in. It's just going to be a matter of putting things together and being as efficient as he was last week, actually even more efficient than he was last week, because they did have some possessions where they probably left some points on the table, and I think you'd like to see him come out and just be firing on all cylinders with this offense against Western Kentucky.
How he plays remains to be seen, clearly. Yeah. But there's something to somebody going, we believe in you. You're our starting quarterback.
Thanks, Tim.
You're our starting quarterback, young man. The last three guys that have been in this position have gone to New York City and been in the Heisman Trophy race. They were all three first-round draft picks. You're the next in line. We expect big things from you, but we think you're capable. That's got to make you feel good and also make you feel, what? I got to deliver.
I'll tell you how I feel about it.
Well, yeah. But my point is, there's something to that of getting that boost of confidence or that from your coach, from your team, that can really change you for the better. And so I'm interested to see how he plays this week. And they're not going against the world's greatest defense, but they are going against a defense that lives on the turnover. And so that will be what to keep in mind as you watch this game.
It is an opportunistic, I think that's a good word. It is an opportunistic defense, Tim.
Yeah.
That's what it is. They're not
taking care of the football is paramount this week.
They're not going to do a great job on defense.
It is every week, and it is this week. Go ahead.
Western Kentucky's not going to do a great job on defense, and I don't think they need to. The Western Kentucky thrives on chaos. They thrive on chaos as in you don't see their offense often, and they thrive on chaos as in if you don't take care of the football or you get a little loose, this thing could go sideways in a hurry, even if you're the Ohio State Buckeyes, the number, I think, 6 team in the nation right now?
Yes.
Yeah. If you want to see the number 6 team in the nation on Saturday, it's in the Horseshoe. If you want to see the coverage of the number 6 team in the nation, it's on LettermenRow.com. Andy Backstrom will be there covering the team. Tim May will be there, the 40-year vet. He's always there covering the team. I will be there as well. Matt Parker on the recruiting side at LettermenRow.com. With the Letterman Lounge, the message board, it is heating up more and more every single day. Subscribe to the YouTube channel below and come be a Lettermen Row member. Join the community, join the club. It's $1 for 1 month, and you will absolutely not regret it. You can't even find a cup of coffee for $1 for a day.
That's so much of a hell of a deal. You got to say hell of a deal twice.
Well, there you go. It's a hell of a good time at LettermenRow.com. Come check us out, where we cover the Buckeyes 365 days a year. For Tim, for Andy, we're going to get out of here and go do our jobs. We'll see you guys back in the Horseshoe on Saturday.